Ferocious is an intriguing first-person action-adventure game that promises an immersive blend of survival, exploration, and combat, set against a backdrop of untamed wilderness and ancient mysteries. Developed by indie studio Omyog, the game has garnered attention for its intense atmosphere, reminiscent of classic survival shooters, but with a unique twist. Its setting is a forgotten world, a remote archipelago untouched by time. At its core, Ferocious taps into the primal fear and awe that humans have for nature's untamed power. The island is not just a location, but a living entity filled with dense jungles, towering cliffs, and dangerous wildlife that feels as real as it is threatening. Dinosaurs and other prehistoric creatures roam freely, blending with the ecosystem in ways that evoke a deep sense of immersion. The game's environment is almost as much an antagonist as the creatures themselves, with a dynamic weather system and rugged terrain that require constant adaptation from the player. Industtria 2, though speculative in its future release, builds upon the haunting foundation laid by its predecessor, Industtria. The original game, developed by Bleakmill, was a narrative-driven, first-person shooter set in an alternate reality during the Cold War, blending dystopian themes with a surreal atmosphere. If we imagine the trajectory for a sequel, Industtria 2 would likely take the profound concepts of reality, identity, and technology from the original and push them even further, diving into deeper existential waters. One of the key aspects that made Industtria compelling was its exploration of Cold War paranoia, a time when the world teetered between two ideologies, haunted by the shadow of nuclear destruction. Industtria 2 could advance this narrative into a world where not only political ideologies clash, but where humanity's very essence is at stake in the face of rapidly evolving technology. How do we preserve our identity and autonomy in a world where machines are not just tools, but competitors, and where artificial intelligence may challenge our own understanding of consciousness?
Laura, please answer. The area is not safe. I repeat, the area.
Imagine Doom, The Dark Ages, as a bold reimagining of the iconic series, transporting the player from the futuristic, hellish landscapes of Mars and Earth to a grim, medieval world filled with ancient horrors, demonic forces, and ruined castles. In this alternate vision, the game would retain the core elements that made Doom legendary: relentless combat, visceral action, and a brutal, oppressive atmosphere. However, it would replace the sci-fi arsenal with medieval weaponry and magical artifacts, offering a new twist on the franchise's signature intensity. Set during a time when superstition and fear ruled over reason, Doom, The Dark Ages would pit the player against dark demonic forces, much like the original series. But these demons would emerge from forgotten legends and arcane rituals, summoned by corrupted priests or power-hungry warlords. The game's narrative could revolve around a lone warrior, much like the Doomslayer, tasked with battling through cursed villages, forsaken catacombs, and ancient castles to halt the spread of a demonic plague that threatens to consume the world. Mouse. Private L for Hire sounds like an intriguing and unique concept, possibly blending noir detective themes with a quirky anthropomorphic world. Though the game doesn't exist in any known franchise, the title sparks the imagination for a potential game filled with mystery, humor, and classic detective tropes. In this imagined game, Mouse, Private L for Hire would cast players in the role of a grizzled mouse detective, Private L, short for Lenny or Lou, who operates in a dark, gritty city filled with other anthropomorphic animals. This would be a world where towering sky skyscrapers, dimly lit alleys, and seedy jazz bars are populated by shady characters, corrupt officials, and femme fatales, all reimagined as various animal species. The setting would evoke a blend of classic noir films like The Maltese Falcon and quirky animal-centric storytelling, perhaps inspired by the charm of Zootopia or Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but with a much darker edge. The gameplay might revolve around classic point-and-click adventure mechanics fused with detective investigation elements. As Private L, you'd be tasked with solving a series of cases that begin small, missing cheese shipments, petty crimes in the rodent underworld, but quickly spiral into something far more sinister, uncovering a conspiracy that threatens not just the animal city, but perhaps the entire ecosystem.
Drumming man, he's a drumming man. No one kicks a set of drums just like he can. All about biology, he knows not a thing. The way he screams out almost drums, you know he's...
The ship is dying.
Judas is an upcoming narrative-driven first-person shooter from Ghost Story Games, a studio led by Ken Levine, the creator behind the critically acclaimed BioShock series. Announced in 2022, Judas has generated a great deal of anticipation due to its creator's reputation for crafting immersive worlds with deep philosophical and narrative themes. While details about the game are still somewhat sparse, the available information paints a picture of a game that, much like BioShock, explores profound moral dilemmas, complex characters, and the consequences of human choices. In Judas, players assume the role of a woman named Judas, who finds herself aboard a crumbling starship in deep space. The ship is tearing itself apart, and Judas's survival is intricately tied to how she interacts with the other characters on board, both allies and enemies. One of the central gameplay features hinted at involves making alliances or betraying those around her, a concept which ties directly into the game's title and likely its narrative core. The name Judas evokes themes of betrayal, referencing the infamous biblical figure known for his act of treachery, suggesting that themes of trust, deception, and morality will play significant roles in shaping the story.
Five long years in the dark of the ground. No one knew where we could be found. But all
Terminator Survival, drawing inspiration from the dystopian future of the Terminator films, particularly the post-apocalyptic world dominated by Skynet and its army of machines. A game like Terminator Survival could offer players a tense, immersive experience where survival is paramount and the threat of relentless machine enemies is ever present. In this conceptual game, Terminator Survival would likely be set in a devastated future where Skynet has nearly wiped out humanity. Players would take on the role of a human survivor, perhaps part of the resistance led by John Connor, or maybe a lone individual struggling to survive in the ruins of a machine-dominated world. Borderlands 4 is one of the most anticipated titles in the long-running Borderlands series. In Borderlands 4, players would likely return to the galaxy as vault hunters, mercenaries in search of ancient alien vaults rumored to contain untold treasures and power. The game would build on the narrative threads left by Borderlands 3, which centered around the Calypso twins and the struggle for control of the Great Vault. With the twin antagonists defeated, Borderlands 4 could explore new vaults across the galaxy, potentially introducing even more mysterious and powerful alien races, such as the Iridians, and exploring deeper lore around the vaults themselves. The story could feature new intergalactic conflicts or factions vying for control of the vaults, with familiar faces like Lilith, Claptrap, and other returning characters offering support and guidance. At the same time, the game could introduce new characters to shake up the established dynamics, and like previous entries, there would likely be multiple storylines full of dark humor, absurd plot twists, and unexpected emotional moments. The world of Killing Floor 3 takes place in a dystopian future where biotech corporations like Horzine have unleashed horrific experiments on the world, resulting in the creation of Zeds, bioengineered monstrosities that threaten humanity's survival. Unlike its predecessors, Killing Floor 3 appears to dive deeper into its narrative, potentially giving players more insight into the corporate conspiracies and ethical lapses that led to this apocalyptic scenario. The core gameplay of Killing Floor 3 retains its cooperative, wave-based format, but with several significant improvements. Players form teams to survive multiple waves of Zeds, with each wave growing progressively harder. The focus is on teamwork, strategy, and quick reflexes. The game continues to offer a variety of character classes known as perks that allow players to specialize in different combat roles, such as heavy gunners, medics, or demolition experts. Atomfall is an upcoming survival action game set in post-war Britain, developed by Rebellion Developments, the team behind Sniper Elite. Inspired by real-world events, Atomfall is set 5 years after the 1957 Windscale nuclear disaster in northern England, immersing players in a bleak yet strangely charming British countryside. Players assume the role of an amnesiac protagonist navigating the quarantine zone in the Lake District, battling mutated creatures, rogue military factions, cultists, and robotic adversaries created by the British Atomic Research Division. The game draws heavily on Cold War paranoia, folk horror, and British sci-fi influences like The Day of the Triffids, The Quatermass Experiment, and classic Doctor Who. This aesthetic blends with survival mechanics as players scavenge, craft, and barter for resources in an eerie world of abandoned villages, cult symbols, and strange characters. While it might evoke comparisons to Fallout, Atomfall is more focused on atmosphere and exploration, evoking a sense of desperation and mystery rather than pure combat-heavy gameplay.
Something that was real.
Can anyone hear me? This is Dr. Maya Joshi. I've been left behind on Isla Nublar.
Jurassic Park Survival is an upcoming single-player action-adventure game developed by Saber Interactive. Set immediately after the events of the original 1993 Jurassic Park film, the game places players in the role of Dr. Maya Joshi, an InGen scientist who was left behind on Isla Nublar during the evacuation. Trapped on the dinosaur-filled island, you must use stealth, ingenuity, and resourcefulness to survive amidst both iconic and adaptive dinosaurs like the T-Rex and Velociraptor, as well as other unpredictable dangers. The game promises a richly detailed version of Isla Nublar, allowing players to explore famous locations such as the towering park gates and the visitor center. The gameplay is heavily focused on survival mechanics, with stealth and strategy being essential for navigating dangerous environments and evading dinosaur threats. Fans have compared its intensity and atmosphere to Alien Isolation, making each encounter with prehistoric creatures a tense, high-stakes challenge. The game is highly anticipated for its faithfulness to the Jurassic Park universe, while offering a fresh, immersive survival experience in a world filled with both wonder and danger. Exekiller is an upcoming first-person action-adventure game set in a retro-futuristic post-apocalyptic world where humanity is in decline after a global disaster. Developed by Paradark Studio, the game blends elements of Western and cyberpunk genres, creating a unique dystopian atmosphere reminiscent of Mad Max and Blade Runner. Gameplay focuses on choice-driven storytelling, allowing players to tackle situations in different ways, such as stealth, negotiation, or combat. The open-world environment features diverse and dangerous regions, from desolate deserts to radioactive wastelands, with dynamic weather systems and day-night cycles that impact gameplay. The game promises high replayability due to its branching narrative and player-driven decisions. The story unfolds in 1998 in a world ravaged by the Great Fire disaster, which wiped out much of the Earth's population. You play as a futuristic bounty hunter known as an Exekiller, tasked with collecting SOULS, biochips that hold vital data and control over their owners. These chips are manufactured by powerful corporations that now rule over what's left of society. Exekiller is expected to release in 2025 on PC and will include vehicular combat, environmental interactions, and exploration elements.
Event flag for security. Uplink error.
Shit, I'm out.
Please stand.
worth it? Of course it was.
S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2, Heart of Chernobyl is the highly anticipated sequel in the S.T.A.L.K.E.R series, set in a post-apocalyptic open-world environment in the Chernobyl exclusion zone. Players take on the role of a stalker, a lone adventurer navigating a dangerous landscape filled with mutants, warring factions, and anomalies. The game revisits familiar areas from the original, but expands the scope into a seamless open world for the first time in the series. The story focuses on survival, exploration, and combat, with multiple endings based on player choices. The game emphasizes immersion through its atmospheric world design, realistic AI, and upgraded A-Life system, which simulates faction dynamics and environmental hazards in real time. Players will have to navigate through anomalies, search for valuable artifacts, and survive encounters with various mutants and human enemies. S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 features horror, action, and survival elements, with extensive open-world gameplay. The development has been significantly impacted by the ongoing war in Ukraine, as the GSC Game World studio, originally based in Kiev, had to relocate to Prague, causing multiple delays in the release. Despite these challenges, the game is now expected to launch in November 2024, coming to PC and Xbox platforms, with day one availability on Xbox Game Pass.
Я ж показав тобі, якою я її бачу. Іди своїм шляхом, і тоді